blood on the tiles. That is my first clear memory. Pattaya City Hospital. Emergency room. Fluorescent lights humming overhead like angry insects. A Russian man screaming about his arm. A British woman crying into a tourist towel. I was on a plastic chair against the wall. My shirt was ripped open. My ribs burned every time I breathed. I could taste metal and old whiskey in my mouth. A nurse pushed a trolley past me. The wheels squeaked once on every turn. She did not look at me. I was invisible. Just another stupid farang in a city that eats us for breakfast. I pressed my hand to my side. It came away sticky. The blood looked too dark. The nurse told me in broken English that the cut was shallow. She said I was lucky. I did not feel lucky. I felt old. I was 53 and tired. I had come here with one plan. One last week of light before I stepped off the edge. I had $500 in my account when I landed. Survival money. Emergency cash. Now I had nothing. Not even my pride. Somewhere in this city there was a girl named Book. She wore my gifts. She sold my gifts. She smiled into my face and lied. I had followed her into the heat. I had followed her into the 7-Eleven at 4 in the morning. I had pounded on the glass door of a sauna until my throat bled. And I had nobody to blame but myself. I asked myself the same question over and over. How did a man who used to move 7 figures with a click end up here with a rag pressed to his ribs and his last 500 gone? The answer was simple. Ego, vanity, and a young girl who knew how to feed both. I landed in Thailand on a Tuesday. I remember that only because the market was quiet. Volumes were low. Asia was sideways. I sold the last of my positions on the flight. I watched the numbers shrink on the tiny screen. Years of my life turned into a few blinking digits. I closed the app. I told myself I was free. No more pre-market alarms. No more staring at charts until my eyes felt like sand. I was done. I picked Pattaya because everyone told me not to. Too dirty, too loud, full of bar girls and broken old men. Perfect, I thought. I booked a cheap hotel near 2nd Road. I told myself I would drink for a week. I would find some sanook. Then I would walk into the ocean one night and not come back out. The first night delivered exactly what the rumors promised. Beer bars stacked on both sides of the street, neon signs buzzing in colors that hurt. Girls calling out to me, "Hey, handsome man, come play game." I let them drag me inside a bar. I let them put a plastic crown on my head. I let them pour tequila down my throat. They laughed at my jokes. They rubbed my shoulders. They called me king. But I could see the clock in their eyes. Every touch had a price. Every smile had a meter running in the background. I had spent my life reading order flow. I could see the trade. There was no illusion. I stumbled back to my hotel at sunrise. My throat was raw from shouting over the music. My heart felt hollow. I looked at the old men walking with young girls. I told myself I was different, smarter. I would not fall for that sin-sod love story. I would pay cash and walk away. No feelings, no lies. Then I met Book. I met her in a coffee shop near the beach. Not in a bar, not in a club. That mattered to me. She sat alone at a table. She wore a white blouse and a pencil skirt. Her hair was pinned up. She had a tablet case and a stack of folders. She looked like a professional. Not a freelancer of the night. That was important to my ego. I would not admit it then. I can say it now. I ordered an espresso. Old habits. I noticed her looking at me, not at my wallet, at my face, at my hands. I felt a little spark. I asked if I could borrow a pen. She handed one to me without smiling. Her nails were plain. No glitter, no neon. I asked what she did. She said she was a real estate agent. She spoke in that flat, polite tone Thai office girls use. She told me she sold condos to Chinese buyers. She said Farang could not buy land, but they could buy units. She said the market was hot near the beach road. She did not flirt. She did not touch my arm. That distance was like bait. I told her I used to trade stocks. I told her I knew about markets. I might have exaggerated my wins. I might have left out the losses. She listened. She nodded. She asked smart questions about interest rates and Chinese capital controls. My chest puffed up. She made me feel sharp again, like the man I used to be before the pills and the missed trades. She pulled a folder from her stack. She showed me glossy photos of a condo project. Infinity pool. Sea view. Fitness center with sauna and steam room. She pointed to a unit on the corner. She said this one is special. Very good for you. High floor. Good for retired man. I laughed. I told her I was not retired. I was on a break. She smiled for the first time. Just a small lift of the lips. It hit me like a shot. She gave me her card. It had her name and nothing else. No company logo, no website. Just book and a phone number. I told myself that meant she was independent. A hustler like me. I ignored the part of my brain that noticed the number looked too new. Too clean. Prepaid. We met again the next day. And the one after that. Coffee turned into dinners. Dinners turned into late-night walks along the beach road. She kept the distance at first. No hand-holding, no kisses. She told me she did not date clients. She told me she was different from the bar girls. She said they sold their hearts cheap. She sold property. My ego ate it up. I wanted to be the exception. The older man who broke her rule. The Chekhov guns were all there. I just refused to see them. She never wore the jewelry I bought her. That was the first one. I gave her simple things at first, a silver bracelet. A little gold necklace with a tiny heart. She thanked me. She kissed my cheek. Then she slid them into her bag. She said she could not wear them in that neighborhood. Too dangerous. She said Thai men might snatch them off her neck. She promised to wear them at home. For me, only. Second gun. The phone calls outside. Her beat-up phone would buzz. She would glance at the screen and excuse herself. Always outside. Always away from my ears. I told myself she was talking business, clients, landlords. In reality, she was probably talking to the pawn shop, checking gold prices, lining up buyers, third gun, the cousin at the sauna. One afternoon, she took me to see the condo project, the one with the infinity pool. The place looked nice, too nice for a man with $500 left. But I played along. I liked seeing myself in the glass lobby. I looked less broken with marble under my feet. She introduced me to a man by the pool. She said he was her cousin. He wore a tight polo shirt and an expensive watch. He never took off his sunglasses. He looked me up and down like I was a used car. Book asked if I wanted to try the sauna. She said it would help my hangover. I did old man jokes. I pretended to hesitate. Then I agreed. My ego wanted to prove I was still strong. The cousin led me to the locker room. It smelled of chlorine and male sweat. The sauna had a glass door. I went inside wrapped in a towel. The heat wrapped me like a blanket. It felt good at first. My muscles loosened. My thoughts slowed. Then time stretched. I checked the little sand timer on the wall. The sand had run out. Nobody opened the door. I sat up. My head was pounding. The air felt thick. I stood and tried the handle. It did not move. My heart lurched. I banged on the glass. I shouted. My voice bounced off the wooden walls. I could see the empty corridor outside. No cousin, no book. The heat grew heavier. Each breath scraped my throat. Sweat poured into my eyes. I hit the glass with my shoulder again and again. Panic rose like acid. Finally, the door opened. Book stood there. She laughed and said she forgot. She pressed a cold bottle of water into my hand. She touched my chest and told me I was strong. Stronger than her younger clients. I tried to joke. My hands were still shaking. A part of me knew that door had not stuck. Someone had held it closed. Tested my limits. Seen how far they could push before I broke. But she smiled. My weary ego wanted that smile. So I let the thought dissolve. The hospital came later, after the jewelry, after the sauna, after she had me wrapped around her neat little finger. We were eating noodles at a street stall near Soi Buakau. The air was heavy with fish sauce and frying garlic. The smell should have made me hungry. Instead, it made my stomach flip. I had not slept well in days. Nightmares of hot wooden walls closing in. Her phone buzzed. The cracked screen lit up. She glanced at it and went pale. She stood without a word. She stepped to the edge of the alley. She spoke fast Thai into the phone. Her hand covered her mouth. She came back to the plastic stool with tears in her eyes. She told me her mother had collapsed. Stroke, heart, something broken. They had taken her to Pattaya City Hospital. Emergency room, no insurance, no money. I reacted before I thought. That old trader reflex, see a market move, jump. I told her we would go now. I waved for the bill. My hands shook. Not from fear this time, from adrenaline, from the feeling of importance. Here I was, a man on the edge of his own life, yet suddenly the hero in someone else's story. We grabbed a motorbike taxi. The driver weaved through traffic. The wind slapped my face. The hospital rose ahead like a concrete ship. Harsh white lights, people spilling out of the entrance. A smoker coughing into the night. Inside it was chaos. Nurses wheeled stretchers. Old Thai women sat on benches clutching registration forms. A German with a bandaged head complained loudly about waiting times. The smell hit me. Antiseptic, trying and failing to cover vomit and blood and sweat. It made my throat tighten. Book dragged me by the hand. She moved like she knew the layout. Past triage, past the payment counter, into the main ER bay. She pointed at a curtain. She said her mother was in there. She tried to go in. A nurse blocked her gently. I watched her switch personas. She went from panicked daughter to cool negotiator in a breath. She spoke calmly to the nurse. She handed over her ID card. The nurse shook her head. Money first. Deposit. Book turned to me. Her eyes were big and wet. She told me she needed cash for the deposit. The hospital would not treat her mother without it. I could see the numbers on the board behind the desk. Foreigners charged one rate, locals another. It was business. I checked my account on my phone. 4 digits glared back. I had wired most of my savings out before I flew, to a place where I could not touch them easily. A fail-safe. I had told myself that 500 was the maximum I would let this city take. After that, I would check out permanently. I told her I would pay something now and the rest later. I walked to the counter. I pulled out my crumpled foreign card. The machine beeped. The receipt printed. I watched a chunk of my last safety net disappear. Book hugged me. She pressed her face into my chest. I smelled hospital soap and her cheap perfume. It was a toxic mix. My head swam. I told myself this was what my last week should be. Not a lone walk into the sea. A good deed, a little redemption, a young woman looking at me like I mattered. The squeeze snapped tight a few hours later. We sat on a hard plastic bench outside the ER. A flickering television played some Thai soap opera in the corner. Book had been scrolling her phone the whole time. Suddenly, she gasped. She rummaged through her bag, the sound of lipstick tubes and keys. Her movements grew frantic. She looked at me like a child who dropped an ice cream. She said her phone was gone, the old cracked one, the lifeline for her work. She said she must have lost it in the taxi or at the noodle stall. She said all her clients were on that phone, all her property listings, her entire business. I told her we would call the number. Maybe someone honest would answer. She shook her head. She said the battery was dead. She said Thailand was not like my country. Nobody returns a free phone. My Penrai for them. Big problem for her. Then came the real pitch. She told me she needed a new phone. A good one. For photos, for messaging rich clients. She spoke about cameras and memory and apps. She said if she could not work, she could not pay the hospital bill. She could not send money up country. Her mother would be thrown out of the bed. She looked at me like I was the last solid thing in her world. The truth was the reverse. I was the one clinging to her. A 53-year-old man who could not accept that a girl in her 20s might fake affection. I needed to believe she saw more than a walking wallet. I needed to believe all my years and scars made me interesting. Special. I told her we would fix it. I said we would get her the best phone in the shop. My voice shook with the effort to sound firm. I did the math in my head. 500 left. Phones cost less here, right? Tourist logic. Lies we tell ourselves. It was close to 4 in the morning. The hospital brightened the dark like a ship. Book said there was a 7-Eleven around the corner that sold phones. She grabbed my hand. We walked out into the heavy night air. My legs ached. My stomach growled. I had not eaten since lunch, but her crisis filled the space where hunger should be. The 7-Eleven lights burned my retinas when we stepped inside. The cold air hit my sweaty skin. It felt like stepping into a fridge. A kid in a school uniform microwaved a sausage. An old farang in a singlet browsed beer. Book went straight to the glass case at the counter, the one with electronics. She pointed at the latest model. Slim, shiny, triple camera. She did not hesitate between models. She knew exactly what she wanted. The clerk took it out with careful hands. He spoke Thai with her. His eyes flicked to me, measuring. My throat was dry. My hands shook when I handed over my last card. The machine processed the payment. For a second, I prayed it would decline. It did not. Approved flashed on the tiny screen. I got cleaned out in a convenience store under fluorescent lights. That was my life now. The clerk put the box in a plastic bag. He handed it to Book. She hugged it to her chest like a baby. She kissed my cheek. She told me I was a good man, the best man. My ego purred like a cat stroked the wrong way but still desperate. We stepped out into the heat. The contrast hit hard. I leaned against the wall and tried to steady my breathing. That was when I saw it. Across the road, in the yellow glow of a street lamp, a motorbike was parked. A skinny Thai guy sat astride it, helmet on. Book walked straight to him. No hesitation, no confusion, like a regular meeting. She did not see me in the shadow by the door. She handed him the bag with the brand-new phone. He opened it. He checked the seal on the box. He pulled out a wad of notes thick enough to choke a horse. He shoved it into her hand. No bargaining, no delay. They laughed together. Easy. Familiar. Then she did something that kicked the legs out from under my last illusion. She opened her little purse. She pulled out a gold necklace. My gold necklace. The tiny heart pendant I had bought her 3 nights before. The one she told me she kept safe at home. She handed it to him. He dropped it into a cloth bag already half full of glittering shapes. They played me like a fool. She turned then. Her eyes tracked back toward the 7-Eleven. Toward me. Our gazes met across the empty road. The mask slipped. No more shy professional girl. No more grateful daughter with a sick mother. Just a hard young face. A flicker of annoyance that I had seen the trade. Nothing more. In that moment I understood everything. The sauna door, the missing jewelry, the dramatic phone loss in the ER, the real estate agent card with no office. The only thing I did not know yet was how much more this city could still take from me. I stepped off the curb. I walked toward her. Cars hissed past on the wet asphalt. Somewhere a dog barked once, then stopped. Pattaya at that hour was between worlds. Not night, not morning. Just neon ghosts and drunk bodies. Book and the motorbike guy stared as I crossed the road. My feet felt heavy, but my mind was strangely calm. The old trader brain finally clicked in. The pattern was obvious now. I was not a client. I was exit liquidity. I stopped a few steps from them, close enough to see the sweat on her upper lip, close enough to smell his cheap cologne mixing with petrol. Book shifted her weight. She slipped the cash into her purse. She told me softly that I should go back to the hospital. She said I looked tired. She said we would talk later. The guy on the bike smirked. He called me the usual thing. Rich farang, easy catch. Something in me hardened. The part that had watched candles form and crash for decades. The part that had held through market panics without blinking. That part finally woke up. I told her it was finished. I told her I saw the sale, the jewelry, the whole play. I told her they played me like a fool, but I was done now. She did not cry. She did not try the innocent act. She rolled her eyes. She said I was old man angry because young girl did not love him. She slipped behind the bike guy like he was a human shield. He revved the engine. He told me to walk away. He leaned forward like he might clip my legs for fun. I laughed. It surprised me. The sound came out dry and cracked but real. I told him he already had my money. My pride was the only thing on the table now that they could not buy. The street was empty except for us. The 7-Eleven behind me hummed like a spaceship. Inside I saw the bright aisles, snacks, bottles, a little island of false comfort. Book glanced at the store. I knew that look by now. She was thinking how to control the frame, how to become the victim again. She pushed past me. She marched into the shop. The automatic door sighed open. The cold air spilled out. I followed without really planning to. The clerk looked up. His eyes widened. He recognized us from 10 minutes earlier. The farang with the shaking hands. The Thai girl with the perfect sad story. Book started shouting in Thai. Fast, high-pitched. She pointed at me. She mimed being grabbed. She showed the clerk her arm like I had bruised it. The bike guy came in behind us. He blocked the exit with his body. The kid in the school uniform was still there. The old farang in the singlet, too. Everyone turned to watch the scene. The smell of microwave sausages mixed with my own sweat. The lights felt harsher. Book switched to broken English so I would understand the threat. She said I had hit her. She said she would call police. She said farang go to jail for this. She said, but maybe we can fix. Maybe I give some more money for her pain. For the lost jewelry. For the lost phone. I felt the familiar panic rise. The old urge to pay to make tension disappear. To throw cash at discomfort. It had worked on brokers and wives and doctors. It would work here too, except the account was empty. My throat went dry. My heart pounded. My hands trembled. Not from drink this time. From the weight of the choice. Pay in shame or stand and take the hit. I thought of the plan I had brought with me to Thailand. One last bender. One quiet exit. No mess, no scene, just a neat fade out. Now, here I was, cornered between instant noodles and the beer fridge, a girl half my age telling me my future, jail or more debt. Two men watching me like hyenas around a wounded animal. I surprised myself again. I straightened my shoulders. I spoke slowly. I told the clerk and whoever else could hear that I had bought her that phone, that I watched her sell it outside, that she pawned my jewelry too. I said she could call the police if she wanted. I would tell the same story there. I had nothing left to lose. Book stared at me like I had grown a second head. She was not used to Marks talking back. She was used to older men folding. She stepped closer. Her face came up to my chest. Her eyes were cold. She hissed something in Thai. I caught only a few words. Crazy farang. No money. Big mouth. She shoved me hard. I stumbled back into a display of instant noodles. Packets rained down. The old farang chuckled. I did not shove her back. That was the line. You do not hit. You do not grab. There are places you do not go. Even here. The bike guy moved in. His hand shot out and grabbed my shirt. He slammed me against the cold glass door of the drinks fridge. Bottles clinked. Pain shot through my shoulder. His breath stank of red whiskey and menthol. He raised his other hand in a fist. That punch changed everything. He swung, wild but heavy. It connected with the side of my head. My vision flashed white. Another hit landed on my ribs. The broken place screamed. I gasped. The clerk shouted. The kid screamed. Someone knocked over a shelf of canned coffee. Metal clattered on the tile. I did not swing back. I stayed on my feet. I let him hit me once more, then I ducked. I moved just enough. Years of bar fights in younger days came back. The third punch missed and drove his fist into the glass door instead. The tempered glass exploded. It shattered into a rain of small cubes. They glittered in the brutal light as they fell. People yelled. The bike guy clutched his bleeding knuckles. Cold air roared out of the broken fridge. It washed over my sweat-soaked skin. I could smell spilled beer and sugary drinks. The security guard arrived finally. A small man with a big baton. He took one look at the broken glass and the blood and did the one Thai thing you can always rely on. He called the police. Book saw where this was going. She backed away. She tried to edge toward the side door. The clerk blocked her with a hurried gesture. He wanted someone to blame for the damage. A Farang was good. A local scapegoat was better. The siren wailed outside. 2 officers came in. One older. One young. Their uniforms were crisp. Their faces were tired. They listened to rapid, overlapping stories in Thai. They looked me over. Bleeding lip, bruised ribs, empty hands. Book launched into her performance. Tears. Trembling voice. She pointed at me. She pointed at the shattered fridge. She showed her bare neck. No necklace. The older officer turned to me. In decent English, he asked what happened. I took a breath that felt like swallowing glass. I spoke clearly. I did not whine. I did not beg. I told him I had bought her jewelry and a phone. I told him I saw her sell both outside. I told him I refused to give her more money. I told him the man hit me. I said they played me like a fool, but I was not paying for the fridge. The clerk nodded eagerly at the last part. He jabbed a finger toward the bike guy. The officer looked at Book. His expression changed slightly. Not sympathy. Recognition. Like he had seen this script too many times already. He spoke to her in a stern tone. She dropped the act in an instant. Her face closed. She shrugged. She said a short phrase that even I understood. My pen rai. No problem. As if none of this mattered. The officer rubbed his temples. He sighed. He told me I had to go to the hospital. He pointed at my side. Blood was seeping through my shirt. I suddenly felt very tired. They did not handcuff me. They did not demand a bribe. Maybe they could see the emptiness in my eyes. Maybe they were just bored. The younger cop called an ambulance out of habit. As they guided me outside, I glanced back. Book was already talking to the bike guy, laughing, holding her purse tight, planning the next move. The clerk swept glass into a pile. The kid filmed everything on his cheap phone. I stepped into the night air. My legs almost buckled. The siren dopplered toward us. That was how I ended up back on the plastic chair in Pattaya City Hospital. Fluorescent lights, screaming tourists, blood on the tiles. The cut on my side was not deep. The doctor said that with a shrug. He stitched me up. He asked about tetanus. I nodded at the right times. My mind was elsewhere, while he worked a Thai man in his 30s was brought in. Drunk. Face covered in cuts. He wore a cheap gold chain. He kept shouting about bar girls and sin-sod, how he had paid a dowry for love and got lies instead. The nurses rolled their eyes. It was a familiar soundtrack. I watched him and saw my own reflection. Different script, same ending. We all come here thinking our story is unique, that the girl with the shy smile is different, that the universe owed us one last romance before the curtain. They do not owe us anything. The market certainly never did. When the doctor finished, he taped a pad to my side. He told me to rest. He asked if I had family in Thailand. I said no. He nodded. He had expected that. A social worker came with a clipboard. She asked about payment. I pulled out my battered wallet. There was nothing inside except a few coins and the hotel keycard. My last cash had gone to the fake deposit and the real phone. I told her the truth. I had no money left. She pursed her lips. She said, maybe I call embassy. Maybe I call family. She handed me a phone. I stared at it. The screen waited. My finger hovered over the keypad. I could call my brother, my ex-wife, even my old broker. Ask for a wire. Tell some flimsy story about being robbed by tuk-tuk drivers. I put the phone down. Instead, I asked if there was any free ward, any charity bed. I said I could sleep in a chair. I did not need comfort. I just needed a few hours to stop spinning. She looked surprised. Then she nodded slowly. She said there was a corner where they put drunks and backpackers who fell off bikes. I could stay until morning. After that, I should leave. She said the hospital could not be hotel for lost farang. Fair enough, I thought. Nothing is free. Not really. I lay there in the corridor. Lights buzzing. A fan clicking as it turned. A French guy snored nearby. A Thai grandmother muttered prayers under her breath. I thought about my plan to walk into the ocean. It seemed ridiculous now. Overly dramatic. Like something a teenager would post online for attention. The truth was simpler. I had been willing to die as long as I could script the ending, control the story. Even my own death had to feed my vanity. Book had blown that up. She had turned me into a generic mark in a generic scam. There was no romance, no poetic fade out, just a busted fridge and a 7-Eleven and stitches in my side. Weirdly, that felt like a relief. For the first time in years, I considered the possibility that I did not have to be special. I could just be another idiot who got burned and kept walking. That could be my moral victory. Not money, not pride, just staying upright. I fell into a shallow doze. Dreams of steam rooms and closing doors. Morning came with no ceremony. The market of the hospital opened for business. Nurses changed shifts. A janitor mopped the blood from the tiles. The smell of disinfectant made my eyes water. The social worker came back. She said I could go. She gave me a paper for the scar, a list of cheap guest houses written in rough English. She said good luck. She meant it. I stepped outside into the white light. The heat hit me like a gentle slap. Not hostile, just present. Pattaya rolled on. Motorbikes. Songthos packed with workers. Farang in singlets drinking beer with breakfast. The same circus as yesterday. My stomach growled. I checked my pockets. I found one crumpled 20-baht note. Enough for rice and egg. Not much else. I walked away from the hospital. Away from Second Road. Away from the bars. I found a tiny street kitchen under a tarp. Locals only. No English menu. I pointed at a pan of fried rice. The woman behind the wok served me without a smile. I handed over the note. She gave me a few coins back. I sat on a plastic stool. The rice was hot and oily. The egg yolk ran into the grains. I took a bite. My hands shook, but not from withdrawal. From something else. A thin edge of emotion I had not let myself feel in years. It tasted good. It tasted real. I thought of Book somewhere counting my money. Maybe planning her next spirit story. Maybe laughing with friends about the sad trader who wanted one last love. Let her laugh. She got my cash, my jewelry, my last phone payment. She did not get the final thing on her shopping list. She did not get my self-respect. I could have rolled over in that 7-Eleven, paid again, apologized. Begged her not to leave like some men do, offered sin-sod money for a fake engagement, taken more hits in the hope of a kiss. I did not. I drew a line, a wobbly one maybe, but real. If I went home now, I would be broke and bruised. I would have to face the cold kitchen and the empty workstation. I would have to explain nothing to nobody. Maybe pick up some small remote job, teach kids about markets without telling them how they really end. But I would be alive. And when my old trading buddies bragged about trips to Thailand and young girls calling them handsome, I would know the truth. The jungle here has its own rules. The house always wins, but you do not have to play every hand. I finished the last grain of rice. I wiped the plate clean. I stood up slowly. On the way back to my dingy hotel, I passed a shrine. A simple one, this time. Faded paint, plastic flowers, a bottle of red Fanta gone flat. Someone had left a tiny model car as an offering, hoping for safe journeys. I pressed my palms together out of habit, something like respect. I told the spirits silently that they could keep the money. I would keep the lesson. Pattaya laughed in the distance. The bar girls shouted 2 for 1 cocktails to the morning drunks. The sea glimmered at the end of the street. For once, I did not feel like walking into it. I turned toward my room instead. Time to heal the ribs, time to heal the ego, time to trade something more valuable than stocks. My own story,